It's just like when you got some coffee that's too black, which means it's too strong. What you do, you integrate it with cream.
Speak repression. Who's the teacher that's teaching it? What's the arm that's helping the teacher reach it? What's the word and who's defining it? Who is learning it and who is blinded by it? Who's the victim and who is digging them? These are questions to ask worldwide. See the methodology, the process of genocide. Don't let indoctrination lead you to homicide.
All right, so we just took a look at the second installment of the Kalief Browder documentary project that's going on with Jay-Z and a slew of other producers on Spike TV. And of course, the mood again is just heavy because of what his brother had to endure in that prison. It was interesting though in this one because one of the things they showed that I didn't know and I was interested in learning is his attitude in terms of dealing with the inmates, because it is a dog-eat-dog type of environment. He wasn't just a victim. He tried to fight back. He fought back. You know what I mean? It was hard to fight back because, like, when you roll alone, as you know, the dude pointed out, I can't remember his name, but he's in another jail. But he was in there with Kalief. You know, as he pointed out, is that when you roll alone, you know, you attract that kind of violence. But the thing about Kalief, he didn't just simply roll alone. He rolled alone because he had certain values that he stuck to. And he was a small guy in stature, but he just was huge in principle. Very, very huge in principles. And it was certain things they wanted him to be, you know, quote unquote, with the program. But I think another thing that comes out of this documentary, this particular episode, there's two parts that come out of it, is addressing the violence on behalf of the inmates and also addressing the violence on behalf of the correctional officers who are part of the culture that exists there, you know. And I remember back in 1994, I was dating a young lady who went into the corrections. We were working security at a homeless shelter together. We started dating, and in the process of us dating, I think maybe a year passed and she went into corrections. One of the things that someone told me, I can't remember who, as she was going into corrections, is that, you know, her personality is going to change once she gets in there, you know. And she was also told that while she was going through what they call it, like when you're a young officer, you go through the school program. I forgot what they call it, like
Academy?
Academy, thank you, Academy. While she was going through Academy, she was also told that her personality might change, all right? And it kind of did, because I noticed that she was more aggressive, but not towards me. It's just her personality was more aggressive. Because you spend so much time behind bars when you work a job like that you end up becoming a part of the culture that's there. It's the only way to survive. You know, that's the only way to psychologically make it, because you see so much. And when I was working as a teacher for a program called the Creative Arts Team, we used to go, it was a program that traveled around different high schools to teach, you know, different subjects and so on. And one of the initiatives we had was to do a program about reducing violence. And I used to go to Rikers Island to their high school program, C74, and you can feel that they made a comment about hyenas and lions. And you can feel that in the atmosphere. It's in the eyes, the way people look at you. It's in the feeling, the way they walk, the whole vibe, the whole essence. It's like, you know, I'm a predator 100% of the time. And it's not just the inmates. The staff walk around that way too. Because it is that kind of environment that you have to be on guard. You have to let people know you're not scared. You know what I'm saying? You have to constantly be sending that message.
Right. And
And then when you're tested, you have to show and prove. And it's a horrible place to be, especially when, in all intents and purposes, you don't deserve to be there. Kalief didn't deserve to be there.
Right, definitely not.
He didn't deserve to be in the position. He's fighting for respect, fighting for his life.
But in order to live, he had to adapt to where he is in order to survive.
But it was a subtle adapting, because one of the things that came out in this one, spoiler alert for those who out there listening, he did join the gang. You know what I mean? I'm not sure how he entered that gang, but normally a gang requires blood in.
Well, he was in a gang on the street.
Right.
He came in the gang.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. I didn't make that clear, but yeah, he came in. Like, he joined the gang while he was outside.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm not sure exactly what the rules were in his particular gang, but normally it's blood in. It's either you get jumped or you put in some work to get in, But it's like Van Jones played out, and I totally agree. It doesn't matter that he joined the gang.
Right.
The fact is, of this crime, he didn't commit.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
He didn't commit the crime. Okay? So you got him in jail for crime that, okay, you certainly
got
can't
him in
prove
jail
he commit.
for crime he didn't commit. You couldn't prove he didn't commit it for 2.5 years.
You couldn't prove that he committed it for 3 years.
Right.
You got him sitting in jail.
It shouldn't matter that he was in a gang. Doesn't mean it doesn't matter that he was in a gang. It doesn't, because now that's going to be brought up.
Right. It's not going to be brought up.
If, for instance, you sue the city, as Kalief did, and you're being deposed by their esteemed legal department, because that's it is aimed to take away your credibility.
Right, it points to your character.
And understanding the racial dynamics of American society, it does matter. It matters if you're Kalief Browder, who's gang affiliated. It matters if you're Trayvon Martin, who isn't gang affiliated. The character assessments of white America, analyzes, or I guess I don't have the proper word, how they present the black narrative.
Okay.
Matters.
Frame
black narrative, that's a good word. If only to change the discussion from the merits of the case. Because we will be talking about it. And that, if we're not talking about the culpability of the political establishment in creating the culture of violence, or creating the apparatus of Rikers, or creating the conditions in black communities across the city and across the country that lead to mass incarceration.
Or to crime in the street first and then mass.
The whole matrix. Yeah, we're not talking about that, and we're instead talking about his gang affiliation, and bringing up his affiliation in certain terms to diverse the conversation.
But we do that. Like we find ourselves. Let's say you hear this whole tragic story about this young man in jail, him being in jail for a crime he didn't commit, and then we find out that he had joined the gang, and then we go, oh, dang, he was in the gang.
Right, and see now,
saying we fall into that.
But is your reaction your disappointment in him, or is it, oh man, now I know how this is going to be framed?
It's I know how this is going to be framed. Right. I know how this is going to look. Right. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's what I felt. When I heard about him joining the gang, it's like they're trying to create a scenario to make him look, well, obviously he's guilty of this because of what he did here. Right. But that's not how it works.
They're calling into question his
innocence.
Because, I think you mentioned in the podcast, the last podcast, he wasn't complete.
Yeah.
Well, he's completely innocent of this crime.
So he's completely
but as a person, he's not completely innocent.
But
therefore, tough cookie.
You're not on trial for your complete innocence.
Right, exactly.
He's not arrested for his right, exactly. Yeah. He hasn't been arrested for his morality, for the things he's done as a kid growing up. He wasn't arrested for the bakery truck. He was arrested for allegedly stealing a book bag.
Right.
They couldn't prove that he stole a book bag for 3 years.
And then the whole accusation
All those other
against
things
him
are irrelevant.
is irrelevant. The whole accusations against him were flawed from the very beginning. The guy in the car who calls himself identifying him gave 3 different scenarios in the car.
3 different scenarios, 2 different dates.
Yeah.
He robbed me. He tried to rob me. He robbed my brother.
Yeah, they robbed and beaten. Like, what actually took place and when?
It kind of seems to me, and this will be an assumption, and I'll say that, but it's kind of like the cops go through their files and they say, who's got warrants? Who's on probation? Oh, this kid? All right. We'll get this crackhead to say that he was robbed by this guy, and we'll lock this guy up so I can get my quota for the month.
Well, we're obviously gonna have to do an episode on stop and frisk.
We know that
searching for warrants because that's exactly what I'm not saying. That's the scenario that Kalief Browder was in, but that absolutely happens.
Right.
We know that happened in Brooklyn. The outgoing prosecutor Charles Hines, an intern in his office, before Kenneth Thompson, who just recently died, took over. I believe there was a prosecutor responsible for a number of prosecutions that actually got people locked up. Those convictions had to be thrown out because of how they were procured. So we know that happens. And if it's happening in the Kings County District Attorney's Office, it's happening, I would say it's logical to assume in probably every jurisdiction in the city, if not the country, as it pertains to mass incarceration of black people in mass.
Yeah, and this is very personal for me because I kind of watched it in this episode and I connected to my brother's experience, because he went through all of that. There was times when he would not call me when he was locked up. He wouldn't call me for let's say a couple of months ago by. And I'll say, what's up, why you call me? Because we had went through a period where he was calling me regularly, and he'd say, well, I was in the box, and he'll tell me why he was in the box but not giving too many details, he would say, well, I had a fight or I got jumped and blah, blah. And of course I would be saying stuff like, yo, hold your head, don't get in fights. He would laugh because you don't know what jail is like. That's not jail. Jail is not the kind of environment where you can be all right, let's just, let's not get, he says not that kind of environment. It's his thing was, and he was locked up in the 90s, and his thing was that by the time you even realize you're in a beef, you're getting swung on. You know what I'm saying? So it's no time for negotiating. There's no time. And then plus, when people test you, you gotta check it immediately. Because see, he was a neutral. Alright?
Which means you're not getting affiliated.
Right, exactly, thank you. You're not getting. He said when people test you, you got to address it immediately because if you don't, then what people say is that's a target. They can get you, So it's his thing is immediately, and I'm going to talk to him, give him a call tomorrow, see if he's going to be willing to come out and, get on the podcast and talk with us so he can talk about those experiences. But it's you got to immediately react. If you're on the phone and somebody asks you a question about a phone, that's beef. It's simple things. You let's say you sit in a chair and you get up and say, well, take a piss and come back, somebody sitting in your chair, that's beef. Because you got to come back and say, yo, I was sitting there, get out of my chair. And you got to say it in a way where you're demonstrating you're not scared. You can't be excuse me, I was sitting here, I just went to the bathroom. None of that. That doesn't exist. You kind of got to come in the room yo, get the fuck out my chair. You crazy? You got to come in like that. You're watching TV, somebody comes turn the channel, speak. Anything that's yours, somebody touch it or take it, that's beef. Because you don't want anybody in there talking about, yo, I took this from mistake. If somebody's talking like that, then you got to deal with it. And that the politics of being in jail is something that, we don't talk about, but it's a culture that has been allowed to exist and allowed to flourish, partly because it's a culture that exists on its own, but the COs end up becoming a part of that culture. They become a part of it. They play into the politics of what's going on inside the jail.
Well, they created the program.
Yeah.
And this episode was interesting because you had former CEOs discussing the role they play and have played at Riker. I think this episode doesn't really paint an accurate picture of the violence at Riker. It states the issue because the way I believe the episode portrayed it is that the CEOs allow the inmates to do a lot of things that endanger the lives of inmates. They're complicit in the inmate.
Right. Also, they allow things to happen that endanger their own safety.
Right. Yeah, but I think they don't go into. They don't really go into how much of a gang the CEOs are. And when I mean gang, because they bring up that the Correctional Officers Benevolent Association conducts itself in the same manner as the gang. The thing is, we know that correction officers are gang affiliated because they admit to being gang affiliated.
Right.
We know that correction associations in prisons operate as a gang because there was a case in Los Angeles where they called themselves a gang. They had gang signs and they conducted themselves as a gang. They referred to themselves as a gang. It's not there's no need to use the metaphor when we can just state the facts. They are a gang because they are. There's documented history of them referring to themselves and conducting themselves in that way.
Right.
So when you have a correction officer saying, basically admitting that we created the program, he's trying to say, well, we said it as a joke. No, you're there to create the program. You're there to create the culture that will become mass incarceration. You're not there to, you're not there to serve and protect. You're there to, I guess what would the word be? Not even babysit. You're there to institutionalize.
Well, to maintain the institution.
You're there to institutionalize a number of people that shouldn't be there. They're not criminals. They're not maybe gang affiliated. They're not violent. They aren't what the system says they are. So that's a problem if you want to incarcerate large numbers of these people. Because now they have to be. You are there to institutionalize people who shouldn't be there.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that should be addressed too, is that when you look at Rikers Island, the majority of the CEOs there are from the inner city. They're blacks and they're Latinos. They're not, okay, I gotta be careful with saying the majority because I have not done any kind of research on that. So, but in terms of what they showed in the episode, what you saw of black people.
They're from the same neighborhood.
From the same neighborhood.
They
right?
recognize people.
Right. See, I grew up with a guy back in the 80s, when we were hanging out in the streets of Harlem, whatever. He was a well-respected dude in the streets, right? And because he just, I'm not gonna put anything on his name, but he just was well-respected in the streets, put it like that. As we came of age, he went into, I think, the what's it called? It was some branch of the military, the one when you reserve. He went into reserves first, I believe, and then from that he became a correction officer. And I would like to believe all the best things about him when he became a correction officer, that he wasn't on the corrupt side of things and so on and so forth, but I do know he was no punk, you know what I mean? He was not the dude that was going to be, because see, correction officers are in a position where they have to maintain the rules and regulations of an institution with people who don't like structure and aggressively don't like it. Well, so there's a fine line there. That's what? No, that's completely honest. What do you mean is this?
You say you don't like structure. No one likes white supremacy. No one likes an enemy imposing a system on you. That's the structure. It's like you're not there to enforce an arbitrary system.
Right, but
you're there to enforce.
A lot of people that are in there, they aren't thinking that.
Yeah, these are people who just have jobs. And their job is to maintain the rules and regulations of this institution. I get what you're saying, and I'm not in disagreement with what you're saying, but it's not dishonest on their part to say that you can't sit there at this time. You got to be over there.
No, they're aware.
They have to do that.
They're aware of the role they're playing because they defend themselves in the same way. It's like, well, I'm just doing this to support my family. We don't allow drug dealers to do vicious crimes in the street. You don't have that cop out either. Because we know what you do. In fact, you know what you do because a lot of what you do out of sight of camera because you know what you do. And when you see what goes on, you keep your mouth shut. Yeah. You're not innocent. There's no way you're going to wear that badge, walk into that institution, knowing full well how it operates on a daily basis, and claim that you are innocent. Yeah. You're complicit whether you want to be or not.
But I think I agree with you. I think what I'm addressing is how easily you get sucked into it. Is because when you're in that position where you're saying, okay, put it like this, inmates have visits, right? And the thing is, the person visiting cannot touch the inmate they come in to visit, even though they're not behind glass in some section. I actually visited my brother there before, and we were able to sit at a table and talk. There was no glass between us, right? So you have a female come visit her man, and they hold hands. Now, as a correctional officer, you have to say, y'all can't hold hands, right? That inmate, depending on his mentality, may say, yo, go fuck yourself. Now I'm holding my girl's hand. You see what I'm saying? So now he has to respond. Mm-hmm. And the only level of enforcement that he has access to is what he's able to do violently. I promise you when I tell you the story, I'm sitting and visiting my brother and a fight break out because there was an inmate that, I think they were crying and wrapping up their business session or something, this guy and his girl. And so the correction officer says, yo, let her go, whatever he was saying. But the dude was not responding like he was respecting her. They got into a fight right there. So my brother jumps up saying, yo, that's not right. I'm not saying don't get involved in whatever they're going through, but it's the politics of the jail because the dude that was, I suppose the guy who was getting into the conflict, I think him and my brother were affiliated. You know what I mean? So he was kind of halfway defending them, but I can tell that this is going to be real bad for him. Because he get involved in this, and that CO's in there by himself, right. And now you got 2-on-1 or whatever. They get the drop on that CO. It's gonna be bad for him. You feel what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, like, how fast something can turn violent, because these COs are in a position where they gotta enforce the rules in that building, and the people that gotta enforce the rules are violent. That's what I'm saying. That's how they get sucked into it. The white supremacist institution part, I agree with that 100%. And them not being innocent, I agree with 100%. I'm just talking strictly about how they get sucked in.
Because, what I'm saying is, the defense is, we have to enforce the rules. So, people take that statement as a neutral, objective, divorced statement. It's like, you could do that. That's easy. Or I can say, who set the rules? If I go back far enough, and I see Rudy Giuliani is responsible for a good deal what Riker is today, am I supposed to ignore that? Right. When I know full and well.
The only thing to do in response is to quit. You can't function in that job and say, you know what, I'm not going to follow the rules of white supremacy. You can't function in that job. You have to find a new job.
My thing is, we see on camera white people who stab their wives to death viciously, treated with more humanity than an inmate touching his fiancé. And that is not because you're. That is not just because you're in a violent environment. It's because the people you're policing, in your mind and in their mind, are animals. They're not human beings.
Right.
So it's not.
And that they even stated that in the episode.
Right. So you don't have a cop out. You're not. I just have to. The reason you have to enforce your law violently is because you don't view them as human beings. So you feel entitled to treat them in a way you wouldn't treat a Dominique Strauss-Kahn. You wouldn't dare put your hands on them that way. Don't act like you're innocent and don't expect me to have any sympathy. You decided to swallow whatever dignity you were entitled.
I don't think they're asking
to do your dirty work.
For sympathy. I didn't get that from these correctional officers in this documentary. Maybe from the association when they had their ad campaign back when this was a story. They were running ad campaigns about how the city was coming after them. No one went for it. So they stopped running the ad campaign. I don't see them asking for sympathy because most people know that they're fucking corrupt. So they're not getting any sympathy from anybody.
Yeah, it's like a gang is watching over gangs.
Right.
That's really what that is. And it's like, the gang that's, I guess, in good with the correctional officer, they have the advantage in that particular house.
Right, yeah.
You know, so anyone in there who is not affiliated with them is in trouble. You know, so
They're basically the top gang.
yeah,
Well,
they're the strongest.
Because I'm like going after correction officers because I don't really have any respect for them. But you know, it's interesting because like it is easy. That's why I think we in our last episode premised this episode with, because I think we can catch which direction we're going in. That the predators are themselves victims, and you're not going to be able to see that going into the next episode, because you know, all you'll be seeing is you know, oh my goodness, they're ganging up on this poor kid, he can't defend himself, and you know, that's viewing the situation in a snapshot. If you rewind the picture and individualize each story of each inmate in Riker, you know, it's a more tragic picture. It's like it's a story of powerlessness, of brokenness,
just lack of everything that makes a person human, makes a person feel human, and makes a person live human.
Look, the reason why slavery was able to exist the way it existed was because a certain level of violence. You can't just call someone a slave and they'll be your slave. There were entire you know, nations of black people, white people attempted to enslave, that they couldn't. They refused to be their slaves. They would either kill themselves or
Fight to the death.
Right, or fight to the death, because they were not slaves. So they were not profitable. They weren't worth the you know, the loss in trying to enslave them.
Right. And even after certain groups were enslaved, you know, taken to the seasoning camps and their identity completely stripped, they would still revolt.
Right, because they never accepted, you know, you don't, like, the way, we don't talk about slavery honestly. Like, a lot of the brutality of slavery was arbitrary, but arbitrary strategically. It wasn't that you disobeyed master and so he whipped you. It was, I'm going to whip you every day brutally.
They'll hang you upside down naked and whip you.
Or castrate you. Or rape your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Or rape your daughter.
Yeah.
You know, have my way with your son.
Right, capture the whole town, kill the chief in front of everybody.
I'm going to do all this to reinforce in your mind
that I'm the boss.
I'm the boss, and you are what I say you are.
Probably.
You know, if I say you're a dog, you're a dog. You act like a dog. You know, you submit to me like a dog does when I'm around. But here's what black people don't realize. That didn't just end during slavery. Because we don't understand what Jim Crow was. I think the older generation of black people very much do, and actively not only try to forget it, but they don't want us to know because of how humiliating it was for them. It's like Jim Crow works because you have to buy into it. When you walk outside of your apartment, as an apartment that a white man can if he wants to, and then you come out of it, so he can punish you for an offense.
Or demand
your child is sent out.
Right.
Yeah.
Or demand
your wife.
Yeah.
Anyone in that house. And you knowing full well you have to give him up and you never see him again. That is control. Complete control.
And it takes brutality
and
that emotion
to put that in there.
That didn't end when the Civil Rights Act was passed. Black people still buy in to a certain level of control. We just do it very differently. So it might just be, I have to enforce these rules because white people told me I had to. Or I am going to view you this way because that's how I've been told to view.
Yeah, and it's still a brutal regime when it comes to us and the whole question of oppression and submitting to their will and their authority. It's still a very brutal regime. You know, we're still dealing with the same brutality, in other words, that we were dealing with back when slavery, because brutality is the conditioner, all right? It's the thing that makes you submit. They get you, trap you, you're and as an individual, then they take you, they hang you up outside that, they beat you and all kind of stuff. And when you come out of that situation, your whole tone has changed. You know, you're a little more docile, you're a little more respectful. You know, you're less inclined to run away and rebel because you know that's probably your best option to survive. You've tried. It's the story of Roots trying to escape and the brutality forces Kunta Kinte to shift his ideas. That and the combination of him integrating with the people who are already slaves. You know,
you have the guards in the Kalief Browder piece. They didn't like him because he was a mouthpiece. And don't say he didn't follow the rules. No, you didn't follow the rules. He was a mouthpiece.
Right, about the wrong that you were doing. Right.
So don't say you had to follow the bullshit.
Right.
You're there to be an overseer.
Yeah, his spirit was so huge. It's like even in the midst of his psychological pain, because he was sitting in that moment, he was going through a recall, and you could see it on his face. He was recalling the agony of being, in the box or the thing, whatever they call it. And you can see the pain on his face.
We don't know half of his story.
Yeah,
we just know these are the safer teams. I don't think we'll ever fully know the horror.
Well, he's not here to tell it. Exactly. So there's no way we're gonna know it, right? But even as he's going through that pain of recalling all of it and stuff like that, you can still see how strong his spirit was. You know what I mean? I know you can look at him and say, well, it broke him. You know, he committed suicide and all that kind of stuff. You know
what, the system inside?
Yeah, the system, what he went through.
I would say most likely it was the 8 months in solitary confinement, which is known to drive you insane.
Yeah, it's like he can't understand why life is this way. And look at all that he's been through. Like, if you wrote this as a screenplay, people walk away, that's some unbelievable stuff. He just went through so much. The main character went through so much. But look at all he went through. We're talking about the condition of his parents. You know, I'm not clear. Did he know his father? No, I'm talking about his biological father.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm a little unclear.
Yeah. Because the man in the story, the man in the story was his foster father, right?
Right. He was,
that's right. He was born into
Yeah, it was his foster father because he was a crack baby or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So look at that. Come on, crack baby. His biological parents, learning later that you were adopted.
I believe one of his relatives were crack babies, and was one of them born with a dependency on crack. Yeah,
okay. Okay, so not so much him, just one.
I'm a little unsure.
Okay, but anyway, he ends up in foster care. Ends up with a foster parent, and she seems like she was good to him, you know. But still, when you learn that you're adopted and all kinds of, you're still left with a lot of questions, and you're doing a lot of pain over that. And then the only thing you have access to medicate your pain, your friends and your social environment, the streets. So of course he turns to that, and that's where the gang comes in, because a lot of people don't know what a gang is. You know, people think a gang is just a bunch of marauding thugs who get together and say, hey, you know what, let's do whatever. A gang is really a group of people who are coming together to find something to repair that brokenness that exists in their life and in their household. You know, my dad is not around, my mother's not straight, whatever's going on.
You know what I mean?
It's an attempt to, right.
All you're going to do is reinforce
the dysfunction.
Yeah.
Right, because now all you guys together as a dysfunction clan, you know?
And then you'll be blamed for your dysfunction. Because
and
you're doing the gang.
Right.
You weren't an upstanding member of society.
And then with Kalief, he ends up going to jail for a crime he didn't do. I'm just going to put that out there.
And
he didn't do this. You know what I mean?
It's also a misdemeanor.
Yeah. And he does 3 years for a crime he didn't do without a trial, without a conviction. Okay?
Right.
He's getting beaten by inmates. He's getting beaten by correctional officers. And he's still standing up for what he thinks is right. Like, he's saying to these gangs, like, I don't want to do that because I'm not with the program. I'm not with violating somebody. So no, I don't want to do it. And then he's saying to correctional officers, do your job. You got us out here late. You didn't feed us. Do your job. All right, getting beaten for that, like constantly. So he's sitting trying to figure out, how could the world be this wrong?
They are doing their job. They are doing their job. What do you think their job is? This isn't nothing about this is straight. We need to be honest. It's like
But I'm talking about Kalief, like him saying to them, do your job. You're supposed to do this. What I'm asking for, you're supposed to do. You're supposed to bring us out at a certain time and feed us at a certain time, put us back in the cell. But you're going to take us out late and then put us in early and don't feed us? Like, do what you're hired to do.
They are doing what they're hired to do. He just doesn't realize that. He probably did eventually. They're not here.
No, I don't think it ever hit him because that's the pain that he's going through. Like he was saying to his brother, the correctional officers are letting him beat me. The correctional officers are beating me. I don't get this. It's like his brain wasn't getting that. Like, how could it be so
And
this
is why, like, because there's a point where his foster mom says, we don't live in a third world country. Black people are in denial about their condition. We don't understand what the game is here. You're constantly programmed to think. We know or should know that the white power structure isn't playing straight. That they have an agenda when it comes to black people. That white people haven't changed how they view us since slavery. They view us exactly the same way that they viewed us during slavery. They interact with us exactly the same way. They treat us exactly the same way. We are in exactly the same position socio-economically as we were in slavery. Yet we continually tell ourselves to believe that an alternative reality, even in the midst of Riker, like inmates are being barbecued to death in their cell because you don't matter. It's like literally, inmates are being cooked to death in their cell.
Yeah, set on fire.
Inmates are being allowed. Inmates in dire need of medical treatment are being driven around in circles for hours before they're checked into the hospital because you don't matter.
And that's in the DOJ report.
We tell ourselves that Black Lives Matter in the face of all evidence to the contrary.
That the Black Lives
because we need to tell ourselves a lie to make ourselves feel better.
Yeah, 100. That's for sure. And it's so, to me, it's so, there's an irony there with Kalief because, in this generation, we're getting a lot of Emmett Tills. Like, Emmett Till back in the 50s was the force that galvanized the black community. This time around, we're getting a lot of Emmett Tills. We're getting, Trayvon Martins and Mike Browns. And I put Kalief Browder in that too, though he's not a victim of, but he's not a victim of police brutality, any kind of, but it spans the gamut. Like, Trayvon Martin was killed by a citizen, not a cop. Okay? Mike Brown was killed by a cop. Okay? Kalief Browder was killed by a system. Okay? But all of this is really a continuation of the brutality of dealing with white supremacy. It's all the same brutal forces. Okay? When it comes to what you're talking about, that our lives don't matter. They absolutely don't matter. And they don't just not matter to the white power structure. They don't matter to one another. That's the part that's so hard to deal with. That's the part that breaks my heart. And then this is the thing that's so ironic about Kalief Browder, because for some reason he's hitting me so hard. Like, it's hurting me to have to deal with this. Like, y'all don't know, I hold back tears watching it. Only because y'all here. Because if I was watching by myself, I would have my tissue. Keep 100%. But it's like, he went to jail for robbery. Right? And y'all know my position on stuff like this. I hate to do this because it's the foolishness of preaching. But he went to jail for robbery. And how does the Bible describe us? As a people robbed and spoiled. They are hid in prison houses. And no one delivers them. And no one say restore them. We have been robbed. Physically. Taken from another place and transported here. We are still in that captivity. And this is what you're talking about when you say that black people try to pretend there's another reality for us. No, there's no other reality. This is the reality that we're in. We're under someone else's domination. And they have the power and the authority to take our lives. And don't be fooled by the black people who do their will. They're white supremacists too. Don't be fooled by their brown skin.
There's no
They're nappy hair. They're white supremacists too.
There's no fiercer white supremacist. There's no white supremacist like a black white supremacist. It's like you want some pure, undiluted white supremacy. I mean, man.
When I was a child and I watched Roots, the first version, I was alive back then. It came out in 1977. I was a child and I watched Roots, and I saw the whipping scene, which is so famous. They're getting whipped, and your name is Toby now. Your name is Toby, right? I couldn't understand why I was a black man hitting with that whip. I didn't get that. I let my son watch it. He had the same reaction. He's like, wait. He's like confused. Like, Daddy, I thought you said the slave masters were the white people. Like, why? So why is this black man doing it? You know what I mean? And I was like, I had the same confusion when I was young. It's like, what it is that sometimes, and I couldn't explain it to my son because he's too young to get it. I figure over time we'll have that conversation. But the system does reach out to black people and say, okay, do this part. And black people, I'll do it because I benefit from being the one that's whipping. You know, I'm benefiting from it instead of being the one that's whipped. Like if I had to choose, that's the thought process. I have to choose between being the one that's whipped and the one that's whipping. I'm going to be the one that's whipping.
Well, there have to be consequences now. Because the cop said, or one of the CEOs said, you know, who's going to check me? I'm a cop.
Right.
And I'm like,
who's there to govern me?
Well, that needs to change. There need to be, I've said this for years, there need to be consequences to, you know, it's like there's this film called The Wind That Shakes the Barley about, you know, the IRA in Ireland, their fight with the English. And there's a scene where, you know, one of the former revolutionaries, or, you know, at least they were mutual friend or family, joins the British Army and is now, you know, enforcing that law. And one of his old friends looks at him and says, "You're wearing the British stamp, and that's going to be this is our relationship now, because you've chosen your side. There's no coming back, as if you're one of us now."
Right.
And black people don't do that. It's like, we allow you to go out into the white man's world and do the white man's bidding. And then we welcome you back. In fact,
hey man, Nat Turner was a house nigga.
I'm sure, like the field niggas hated him for years.
They hated him for years until he understood what the fuck was going on. Said, "Whoa, these motherfuckers are monsters."
Right.
Even the book that I use to keep these niggas in check are against them. It tells me these motherfuckers are monsters. We have to kill them.
Right.
These motherfuckers have to die. Like. So
I'm not saying there's
no one. We shouldn't bar anyone out of the black community. We shouldn't say, "Oh, well, your iniquities have runneth over, and now you are barred from."
But let me say this. Let me say this. It's like you saying that we allow people to come back. But this is the thing. As a community, we push people out to those white. Because, like, for example, they're black families. Son grows up and say, "I want to be a correctional officer," and then he becomes a correctional officer. That family's like, "I'm proud of my son. Look at him. He's a correctional officer. I'm proud of my son. Look, he's in the military. I'm proud of my son. Look, he's a police officer." You know what I'm saying? So we do that. So the coming back to the community is not just, you know, simply we allow you to come back. It's we actually told you to go.
Right.
We said go do that. You know what I mean? But you know why? Because the line is not clearly drawn with us in terms of the white power structure is our enemy and we are a community. That's not a clear line. That's a very fuzzy line. You know, I don't even know if people are aware, in terms of black people, that a line exists. No matter how much you show them the evidence.
You can't be serious. You know, white people used to draw a line.
You think that mattered to black people? Listen, Emmett Till, black folks saw how Emmett Till looked on the cover of that Jet magazine and still insisted on sending their children to those schools to be educated. That's what people don't see a fucking line. Yeah. You do not see a line. Those people out there with signs, "Nigga, go home. We don't want you around here, monkey," spitting on your children, beating your children up, but you still insisting on having your kids go to the school.
Crying.
You don't see a line.
Why don't you want me to go to your school?
Right. Parents, see, as a parent, your natural instinct is to not want to put your child in danger, and you don't want to expose them to anything that's going to traumatize them, right? That was absolutely dangerous and traumatizing.
Yeah, but going to school with white people is the ultimate hope.
How and why? They call you nigga, they hate you, they lynch you. How are they your hope?
See, but it's like
I can't get mad at those people back then. I just can't.
Well,
I can't relate. I have the mindset that I have because of what they went through. I can't say that if I was born in that time that I know that I'm a product of the time that I was born in. I can't say that I would think any different.
Malcolm was born in that time.
Right.
Garvey was born before that.
Malcolm was born from a Garveyite.
In fact, I'm glad you brought up Garvey.
They were Garveyites. Garvey didn't speak to everybody. Garvey didn't get to every black person.
No, he did have a huge.
He had a huge following. He had a huge following. Thank God, two of his Garveyites had a child called Malcolm X, who spoke to even more black people than Garvey.
That's exactly
right.
the point. Garvey
that's the point
spoke
too.
to a generation. Garvey did not speak to a niche audience. I think he's presented. Well, obviously he's presented falsely. And usually, I've yet to find a Garvey documentary that didn't have an integrationist in it. That they can't present the narrative of Garvey, honestly.
Really?
Right. Yeah.
I haven't watched too many of the documentaries. I've done a lot of research on him, but I don't see how an integrationist.
No, I've seen it. I've definitely seen it. I agree with
That's
But it's Garvey.
Yeah.
Right.
Who's referred to white people as devils.
I know we're way off the Browder thing, but I just want to say real quick.
Right.
I've actually, the only time that I feel like I've heard a real assessment of who Garvey is when I listen to him give a speech.
Right.
Okay. But as far as the documentary, they do corrupt his vision. All right. And I always walk away feeling like that's not really him.
Yeah, I was watching a documentary and there was a guy who started criticizing money management, and I wasn't up for me. I knew what they were trying to do, and I wasn't going to consume it.
Mm.
Let me just set some context for people. Like it is 2017 this year. This July will be the 100th anniversary of the East St. Louis quote unquote race riots. Which, for those of you who don't know what a race riot is when white people decide, they want to kill a bunch of niggas that day. They literally cross the bridge, or they cross the line, or they cross the tracks. From the white neighborhood to the black neighborhood, and they burn it down and have themselves a good lynching. So this July will be the 100-year anniversary of that. 100 years ago, while black people are literally being scalped, pulled off of trolley cars, babies being cut out of their stomachs, they're being mutilated and castrated all across the country. You have Marcus Garvey telling black people to wake up to your condition, to be proud, beautiful black race. You have W.E.B. Du Bois telling black people to join me. Du Bois.
Say it right, like a Frenchman.
Or say it like a black man and just say Du Bois.
He's literally at the same time telling black people to let's ignore all of our what's this phrasing? Let's ignore all of our differences and join arm in arm with the white man.
Yeah.
To fight for democracy in Europe. To prove to him that we can be citizens and human beings. And to prove to him that we are good Christians.
Again, not seeing the line.
We to this day celebrate that, man. Yeah. That is some superb coonery. It's like the high mark of coonery. Yeah. It's like, I don't even think we would celebrate that today.
I'm sorry. Those are some good punchlines, man.
Yeah, I was trying not to.
Oh my God, that's good shit, man.
I always try not to laugh, but then I was like,
"Hi, Mark, this is what got me."
I looked at you. I was like, "Is that as funny as I think it was?" And was like,
"Try not to laugh." I'm sorry, man. All right, continue to let's reset from superb coonery.
Sorry. If we can stop laughing.
Oh, okay, all right.
But it's like amazing to me that like 100 years later, because like 100 years later, we still, or some of us, a lot of us, take our children to see hidden figures and literally cry at a film we know to be white revisionist, because that's how much we want to still be a part of their world. and to still be accepted by them.
Did you see it?
I did, actually. It was so much fun.
Was there a white savior?
Of course. Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner. All of the white people in that movie were redeemable.
Oh, okay.
Every last one.
But anyway, as we say, you're black. What are you gonna do about it?
I'm steady trying to find the motive. Why do what I do? And freedom ain't getting no closer. No matter how far I go, my car is stolen. No registration. Cops patrolling. And now they done stop me and I get locked up. They won't let